And joining me now, Ron Brownstein, CNN senior political analyst and senior editor for The Atlantic, Paris Dennard, CNN political commentator and former director of Black Outreach in the George W. Bush administration, and Michael Nutter, CNN political contributor and former mayor of Philadelphia. Gentlemen, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Good
Ron,
morning. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. Let's start with you. Here we are, day after Christmas. President Trump said he wants to get back to work at Mar-a-Lago, focus on his legislative agenda. Yet here he is tweeting about the dossier and calling the FBI tainted. Why?
This is the work. Look, I have felt for, many months that for his portion of the presidency, his conception of the presidency is to wage these personal and political conflicts against an unending series of targets. That, I think, is what he delivers above all to his base, the sense that he is fighting against all of these forces, that he is trying to convince them are holding them down, whether it's the cultural elites, coastal elites, the media, forces inside of government. I mean, this is the fight. And the paradox here is that for the broader electorate, I think this is the biggest problem that he faces. I mean, why is his approval rating stuck below 40% with the economy doing so well? It is largely because of the way he comports himself as president and this sense of perpetual conflict. I talked to one strategist in Alabama who was talking about how important it was for Doug Jones to play off of that idea, that he would be someone who would work together. And I think Republicans on the Hill who are trying to look away from this behavior are really walking into a dark alley in terms of what voters are looking for in 2018.
Paris, do you agree? Do you agree that this behavior, tweeting about things like the dossier of the FBI, is what is hurting the president in his approval ratings and could hurt Republicans in the midterms?
Absolutely not. I think the American people know exactly the type of man that the president is. He is a man who speaks directly to the American people without the filter of the different media sources that tend to not focus on the positive things that he's doing. His Twitter account is something that he uses, and it is an effective tool. The president believes.
Why is he randomly tweeting about the dossier and the FBI the morning after Christmas? And by the way, we have been focusing on his accomplishments in this show, but go ahead.
I wasn't talking about this show, Pam. I think you're doing an excellent job today. But I think that what the president is doing is focusing on the things that are both good and both bad as it relates to his administration. Something that is bad is this dossier. If you listen to Mano, let me translate everything that Mano tried to say. There is no Russia collusion. The FBI special investigator Mueller did not have anything in his initial findings that tied the Trump campaign or the Trump White House to Russia. So
no. Hold on. Sorry, Paris. I have to jump in here. He was saying that they haven't. None of these charges stemmed from the dossier. He did not say that there is no evidence of possible collusion between the campaign and Russia. Speaking for my colleague, I heard him. He didn't say that.
Well, I'll say it, and I'll also go on to say that in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. But if you look at the media, and if you look at what liberals are trying to do, they're trying to say the president, the White House, and the Trump campaign are guilty of nothing. You are innocent. There have been no charges, no charges, no proof, no evidence of any collusion. And that is what the president is frustrated with, especially when you see some of the things that are coming out, some from these FBI investigators. Some have tweeted things that have been anti-Trump. Some have been major donors to the Clinton campaign. And the fact that you see some of these emails that have been received that weren't done in a proper channel. And so the president is right to go ahead and put this on the forefront of the American people, that he believes that this is a distraction, not just to the president, but to the American people. We should move forward and look to the things that are really going on with respect to Russia, because we're trying to say that the Trump campaign had something to do with colluding with Russia, rather than focusing on, let's say, was there any collusion between the Democrats? Was there any collusion between the Clinton campaign? But we don't want to focus on that. So the president is right to focus on, at times, the issue that he brings up with Russia.
Special Counsel Mueller's investigation is focused on many aspects, but also whether the Russians in the Trump campaign, whether that there was any coordination. But do you think that, Mayor Nutter, he has a point here that some of these, texts from the FBI agents showing political bias and donations to Democratic parties is tainting the Russia investigation? Does Paris have a point?
No, he doesn't. And other than his blood pressure being up this morning, I mean, that's straight out of the usual talking
My
points.
blood pressure is just fine,
is
Mayor.
that, hey, Paris, happy
My blood
holidays
pressure
to
is
you,
fine.
and let me finish.
Merry Christmas.
Let me
Merry
finish.
Christmas to you.
Yeah.
Finish, but don't talk
Happy
about my
holidays to
health.
everyone.
My blood
Can I-
pressure is fine.
Okay, go
Finish your
ahead.
point.
Calm down, brother. First of all,
Don't
4 people
brother
have been
calm
indicted.
down me. First of all, don't talk about somebody's health. My blood pressure is not high. Finish your point
Okay.
if you have one.
Okay, Mayor Nutter, let's focus on the point you're trying to make here.
Sure.
He doesn't
Yeah.
have one.
let's listen.
4 people have been indicted. One was the National Security Director. One was the campaign chairman for a variety of things. That's one. Special Counsel Mueller's investigation is nowhere near over and continues on its proper course. Third, the president, as usual, in his unfocused and undisciplined way, is still obsessed about things that took place in the past. And one might say, as usual, he doth protest too much. So, the bottom line is he has the lowest approval rating of anyone in modern times. At some point, he'll actually accept that he did win the election. He has to govern and not just talk to the people who like him. And so that's what really governing is all about. That's what happens after you get elected, not staying focused on battling every old fight from a year or two ago, and that's why his approval rating is in the dump.
All right, I want to talk about another tweet this morning from the president, Ron. He tweeted about health care, saying based on the fact that the very unfair and unpopular individual mandate has been terminated as part of our tax cut bill, which essentially repeals over time Obamacare, the Democrats and Republicans will eventually come together and develop a great new health care plan. But, Ron, Mitch McConnell told NPR that the Senate will be moving on from repealing Obamacare. Let's listen to what he said.
We obviously were unable to completely repeal and replace with a 52-48 Senate. We'll have to take a look at what that looks like with a 51-49 Senate, but I think we'll probably move on to other issues.
So where does the Obamacare fight go from here, Ron?
Well, first of all, there are 2 great ironies in that tweet. I don't think people remember, but in 2008, President Obama, as a candidate, maybe Mayor Nutter remembers, ran against the individual mandate. Hillary Clinton was the one who supported it. He believed it was not necessary to make the health care system work, that people would come in just from the carrot, in effect, the subsidies. But he was convinced that ultimately you needed the individual mandate to bring in younger, healthier people who are on the margin about whether to buy health insurance. And that's the second big irony in what the president is tweeting. By removing the mandate, the big losers in that are older people with greater health needs who need more younger people in the system to keep down the overall premium. So what's the irony there? Well, right now, younger people vote predominantly Democratic, those who are going to be relieved of the mandate here. A majority of Donald Trump's votes came from whites over 45. 60% of whites over 45 voted for Donald Trump, particularly when you get those interior Midwestern states that decided the election. Many of the people who will be hurt by the higher premiums that will come from withdrawing the individual mandate are Donald Trump voters. They are the people who put him into office. It is unlikely, I think, that they can go back at Obamacare, because really what's left are the subsidies, the insurance mandates, and the Medicaid expansion. And all of those prove very politically difficult to remove. The last one in particular, because so many Republican governors rallied behind it. So we are left with this kind of very strange set of policies now where the administration is and the Republican Congress has taken out a pin, no doubt, from Obamacare, but one that may largely hurt their own voters.
And of course, everything they do in the year ahead. Go ahead, Mayor Nutter.
I mean, you would think after the disaster of a couple times by the Republicans for full repeal and replace, politically going into 2018, you would think the last thing that any of them would want to do is go back to the disaster of earlier 2017. So I think Leader McConnell is trying to give the president some indication that, yes, we're going to move on maybe to some things that Democrats and Republicans can agree on, like infrastructure and other things that Americans really care about, and put some more people back to work.
And the president has also said that he hopes there will be a bipartisan effort to focus on infrastructure. But Paris, I want to give the final word to you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, look. The president is going to do something that is positive for the American people. When you look at repealing Obamacare, he wants to do this because he campaigned on it, but he knows at the end of the day that it's a bad policy and that's going to hurt more people in the long run than it is going to help. And so the reason why he wants to have it done is because there are parts of it that are bad. Now, there are also parts in it that are beneficial to people, like the pre-existing condition, which he would not take out. But we've got to get to the bottom of this. And for the Senate, at the end of the day, the Senate failed to act. The House acted. They repealed it. It got to the Senate and they failed to act. Now, the Senate has got to do something for the American people that is going to make a difference, especially with Obamacare. And so the fact that the Senate Majority Leader is saying this is not surprising because they didn't have the will to do the right thing from the beginning. But to go back and to improve and make something better, a disastrous plan, which is Obamacare, is not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Just really quickly, Ron, just very, very quickly. So they repealed the individual mandate. What's going to happen to health care now? I mean, isn't that a crucial part of Obamacare? What's going to happen now?
People have to understand there were two components of Obamacare. One was expanding Medicaid, which is unaffected by the change in the individual mandate, and that was where most people ended up getting coverage. The individual mandate has to do with the individual insurance market. And as I said, the long-term effect of pulling this out will presumably be to have fewer, younger, healthier people in the system. It will tilt more toward older, sicker people. Premiums will go up in that individual market. And the paradox is that it will go up for older people with more health needs who tend to be Republican voters, particularly in the states that decided the election. And that's where we will be a year from now, heading into the 2018 election. Republicans in Congress will be dealing with big premium increases in states that will be critical battlegrounds in the 2018 election. So it's, this is the bed they have chosen to make.
We got to wrap up. But it is worth noting, though, that enrollment is still high in Obamacare. I think it was something like 8.8 million.
Almost 9 million. Almost 9 million
with even a more limited time frame to enroll. Okay, thank you all.
And premiums are still
Paris,
going up.
Paris. Well, Ron hit on that. Ron, Paris, Michael. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Got to wrap it there.
Thanks.